Welcome to this YouTube channel. In this video we are going to talk about 10 celebrities who mysteriously disappeared. So before starting this video, like this video, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for future updates. Hundreds of thousands of people vanish each year. Some are discovered and fortunate enough to be reunited with their loved ones. Others simply vanish from the face of the earth, leaving no trace behind. Years of work and complex search parameters have resulted in no positive results. Now all that's left are insane conspiracy theories, hypotheses, and an empty void. Here is a list of 10 well-known people who have gone missing and never been recovered. Number 1. D.B. Cooper. If you've ever seen the comedy film Without a Paddle, or any of the other films, TV series, stories, songs, or novels based on this man's mythology, you'll know who he is. On Thanksgiving Eve, 1971, D.B. bought a ticket under the alias Dan Cooper, and then skyjacked Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305, which was destined for Seattle-Tacoma International Airport. Cooper told a flight attendant shortly after takeoff that he had bombs in his hands and requested $200,000 and 4 parachutes, as well as a refueling truck for, when they arrived at the airport they were initially destined for. The ransom was paid, and Cooper was given the parachutes. After the refueling was completed, he informed the pilot and crew of his destination, which was Mexico City. He leaped out of the plane from 10,000 feet near Mount St. Helens in Washington state around 30 minutes into the journey. Number 2. Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart is arguably history's most famous missing person. Her exploits as a pilot and a passenger in the air made her well known. She was a teacher, novelist, fashion designer, magazine editor, and cigarette spokeswoman in addition to her aviation fame. In 1937, Amelia Earhart and her navigator, Fred Noonan, decided to take a trip around the world. However, on July 2, Earhart sent out a radio message requesting assistance, claiming that they were running out of gasoline over the Pacific Ocean. The U.S. Coast Guard dispatched the cutter Itasca to assist, but they were unable to find the plane. The cutter then attempted to throw up smoke signals in the hopes that the two would see the smoke, but it was in vain. Neither the plane nor the 2 people on board were ever discovered. A private search was funded by Earhart's husband, but it yielded no results. Earhart was proclaimed deceased in her absence in 1939. There are many ideas as to what happened, and the subsequent searches were the most extensive and costly in American history at the time. Her jet ran out of fuel, and she had no choice but to ditch into the Pacific Ocean, sinking after the crash, according to popular belief. Even despite the rigorous searches at the time, experts spent another $2 million in 2012 attempting to show that Earhart had crashed on a small island instead. Nothing, however, has ever been proven. Number 3. Harold Holt. Harold Holt served as the 17th Prime Minister of Australia. After serving in a number of cabinet positions, he rose to become the Liberal Party's leader, and then Prime Minister in 1966. Holt went for a swim at one of his favorite swimming places, after becoming Prime Minister for less than 2 years. He never came back, unfortunately. A massive search effort was launched, but he was never discovered. Furthermore, no formal investigation into his disappearance was ever conducted. Holt was receiving pain medicine for a shoulder issue at the time of the incident. Despite the fact that Holt was a skilled swimmer, it is thought that he was either washed out to sea or devoured by a shark. His death was subsequently determined to be the result of an unintentional drowning. The area where he went swimming was known for strong rip currents. There were no results after a thorough search. His remains were never discovered. After his disappearance, the slang phrase "do a Harry Holt" was born, which meant to flee or depart unexpectedly. Number 4. Jimmy Hoffa. For nearly 10 years, Jimmy Hoffa presided over the Teamsters as a union executive. He was crooked and involved with organized crime, and he went to prison in 1967 while still holding the Teamsters president. He left his office in 1971, however, in order to be released, and receive a pardon from then-President Richard Nixon. Hoffa was last spotted outside a Detroit restaurant, allegedly meeting with 2 organized crime bosses. He was finally proclaimed dead in 1982 after going missing, but the circumstances surrounding his disappearance and subsequent apparent death remain a mystery to this day. However, it has been confirmed that he was murdered by mobsters on the day he vanished, despite the fact that no body was ever discovered. Many rumors circulated about Hoffa's disappearance, and one mob source claimed that he was buried in a shallow grave on a deserted site, about 20 miles from where he was last seen. According to the source, this was supposed to be a temporary location, but Hoffa's body was never transferred. This, however, has never been confirmed. Number 5. Henry Hudson. Henry Hudson was a great English explorer who had towns, bridges, rivers, bays, straits and other places named after him, despite the fact that he did not appear to be a particularly pleasant person to work for. His crew, who were famished, half-frozen, and homesick, became so restless while exploring that they mutinied because they didn't want to continue the hunt after being imprisoned in ice for several months. Hudson, his adolescent son, and 7 other faithful crew members were placed aboard a small boat that was abandoned adrift by the crew. After the ship left them behind, they were never seen again. Number 6. Azaria Chamberlain. Azaria Chamberlain's disappearance is perhaps Australia's most famous missing persons case. You've probably heard the expression, "a dingo ate my baby," and this is the case that popularized it. Azaria Chamberlain, who was just 9 weeks old at the time, went missing when her parents were camping in the outback in 1980. Linda Chamberlain, the mother, was prosecuted and convicted of murdering her small infant daughter and was sentenced to life in prison as a result. However, after 3 years of service, a piece of the baby's clothing was discovered purely by coincidence in a dingo's burrow. The lair was adjacent to the campsite where baby Azaria had disappeared. Number 7. Sean Flynn. Sean Flynn was born in Los Angeles, California, to Lily Demeter and Errol Flynn. Before settling into photojournalism, Flynn tried his hand at a variety of jobs, including musician and actor. Flynn seems to have found his calling as a photojournalist. Flynn frequently traveled with special military teams as well as irregulars that operated in distant regions in search of remarkable photos. He was known for going to great lengths, even if they were harmful. Flynn was on duty in Cambodia with fellow photojournalist Dana Stone in April 1970 during the Vietnam War. Stone, like Flynn, has a reputation for going above and above in perilous situations. Number 8. Oscar Zeta Acosta. Oscar Zeta Acosta was a controversial writer and activist who lived in the United States. He's best known for his friendship with Hunter S. Thompson, another controversial writer, both of whom were U.S. Air Force veterans. Acosta was well known for his early 1970s novels and his portrayal of Dr. Gonzo in Hunter Thompson's novel, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. In 1974, Acosta vanished while visiting in Mazatlan, Mexico. Marco, his son, was most likely the last person to speak with Dad. Marco claims that his father called him from Mazatlan, telling him that he was about to board a boat full of white snow. Marco went on to assume that because he knew his father and the individuals he was with, he probably got smart or mouthy with them, resulting in a fight and his death and disappearance. Number 9. Theodosia Burr Alston. Theodosia Burr Alston was the eldest child of former U.S. Vice President Aaron Burr, who was disgraced after being formally accused of treason. She was also married to Joseph Alston, the governor of South Carolina at the time. She lost her son 5 years after her father's death. She was in such deep grieving that it had a negative impact on her health. Her sole ray of hope was that her father, who had been exiled to Europe, would be allowed to return to the United States. Number 10. Solomon Northup. Solomon Northup is thought to have been born in the early 1800s in New York. Despite the fact that he was black, both of his parents were free, yet his father had been a slave at one point. Northup married Anne Hampton in the late 1820s and the couple produced 3 children. Years later, in 1841, Northup believed he had been promised temporary work as a fiddler in Washington, D.C. He was kidnapped and sold into slavery after it turned out to be a deception. After more than 10 years of servitude, Northup was able to reclaim his freedom thanks to the help of a sympathetic Canadian carpenter. Northup wrote a memoir on his time as a slave, titled 12 Years a Slave. What do you think about this video? Do let us know down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video and want to hear from us again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go.